Hi everyone, I'm Adi. Welcome back to the chess climb. And this is going to be Checkmate pattern series. This is the second episode. And in this video today, I'll be talking about two mates. The first one is going to be the queen and bishop battery. And just like I've said in the previous episode, most of the mating patterns I'm talking through, this is not an advertisement video. This is just, I'm currently going through the Author Yusupov series book. And I picked up the orange one because this is more targeted to like an intermediate level. So the checkmating pattern series I'm talking about, you can currently find them in this book. So without further ado, let me move on to the checkmating pattern. So it's going to be the queen and bishop battery. So what is the queen and bishop battery? It's mainly, often involve the queen, just like it says in the name, and the bishop, lining up on the diagonal. Something like, trying to give mate. Often it occurs, maybe the queen is on f3, the bishop is on g2 against a castled black queen, castle long, and threatening checkmate here, something like that, or black threatening checkmates on this diagonal. So as usual, I'll be showing you one examples, and we're going through two exercises. You get a point for if you're able to find the correct solution in the exercises, so you get a point. So the first example I'll be showing you is a game between Mark Grosgor and Sosonsko in Lauterberg 1977. So black to move in this position, you can go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the best move in this position. So black to move and win. Black to move and win. If you count the material, I think it's equal pawn materials. Yeah, white has 6 pawns. White has 6 pawns. Black has 6 pawns as well. But there's pawn majority on the king side, so maybe black has to do something immediate. So I hope you figured out the best move. So the best move in this position is knight takes d4. Knight takes d4 is the best move in this position. And you can also pause the video and figure out why this is the best move. In case you are not able to, find that out on your own, you can pause the video now and check why knight to d4 is the best move. So obviously, as white here, you're probably considering, oh, I want to take back with the bishop. You take back with the bishop, and you can see there's a 2 question mark, which means this is a blunder. The reason why it's a blunder, I know you figure it out, is because of the beautiful knight d2. In this position, white can recapture our knight. Like, white can recapture the knight, but why is this not advisable for white? This is another beautiful pause moment for you, and go ahead to figure out why this is not the best move for white in this position. So let's say you're playing white and you decided to capture the knight. Oh, free knight. No, it's not free, because the queen and bishop battery is because of queen h2 checkmate. So that's why the knight on d2 cannot be captured by the knight on f3. But I made a mistake. I should have put a very brilliant move on that, because maybe you want to try, there's various moves to try. You can try queen d3, but at the end of the day, after knight takes f3, which is the same motive again, you have gf3, and at the end of the day, you have queen h2 checkmate again. So if you decide to save your queen, this is just mates in this position. After knight d2, I don't think there's anything black could have done better. If you play queen d1, it falls to the same tactics again. If the pawn takes, there's going to be checkmate on h2. If the bishop takes, there's going to be checkmate on h2 regardless. So that is why bishop takes d4 is a mistake. So a more stubborn way to go ahead is to take back with the pawn. Like, this is preferably more stubborn. But after ed4, I want you to pause the video again to figure out the best move in this position. So after ed4, if you have a sharp pattern recognition, you would see that the bishop on e2 is undefended. So how do you take it? You take the bishop on c3. This has to be taken either by the rook or by the queen or by the pawn. Whatever happens, rook takes e2 is threatening, and at the end of that sequence, black will be up a bishop. So that is what you want to do, because pawn takes d4 is the most stubborn way for white to stay in the game. But after knight takes c3, whichever way white captures back, there's just rook takes e2, and black has a decisive advantage in this position. So that's where you have the queen and bishop mate. So just for anyone who didn't go through the analysis, I will just show you again why in this position, why we are able to, in the team of the spirit. And there's nothing for if the king decides to move, it still comes down to the same tactics, because if knight takes f3, I'm thinking maybe they will probably want to do something like this, so it would have just been better. And after takes, rook takes, this is just a lot of material. Or instead of taking the pawn when the king moves, you can just decide to take the queen, and in this position you're just up a queen, and this still plus 6 anyway. So let me move to the first exercise. So the theme here is the queen and bishop mate. So go ahead now and pause the video to figure out the best move. So we have 4 pawns as black to move. Apologies for that, it's black to move in this position and win. We have 4 pawns while white has 6 pawns. We have equal minor pieces, and so we have equal minor pieces. I think this position is missing an extra rook for white. I probably think white has an extra rook, but in this position it's still pretty much simple. The best move in this position by far is knight h3. So I'm sure you figure out why knight h3 is the best move in this mating pattern. So if the queen, the best way for white to stay in the game is to take with the queen to sack the queen, and after bishop takes on g3, you still can't take back. If you say, okay, that's a free bishop, I need to take back, you get checkmate on h2. And after bishop takes h3, the best move is just to play knight f3, the knight defending the h2 square. But you can just go ahead and take the bishop on h7, and after g h3, black has a decisive advantage. You're up a queen, and I think there's an extra rook for white in this position. I probably just missed the idea, but there's an extra rook for white in this position. That's my mistake. Apologies for that. So there's an extra rook. So in this position we would have been down 2 pawns, so it absolutely needs us to force some win. So the best way for white to to just fight a little bit is to take the knight on h3 with the queen. If white decides to take with the pawn, the same motive again, there's just queen h2 checkmate. So if king h1, it's the same motive, you have queen h2. So the only way for white to just fight a little bit longer is to sacrifice the queen for the knight. And obviously at the intermediate level, at our level, I'm pretty sure we should be able to convert the position. So if you get this outrightly, you get 1 point. So moving to the next exercise, white to play in this position and win. You can pause the video now to figure out the best move. And I think I spent probably 45 minutes on this exercise when I was going through it in the book, and I was very glad that I found the best move. So, in the spirit of the queen and bishop battery checkmate, it would have been nice if this rook is not on e7, then queen takes h7 would have been checkmate, but because of this pesky rook on e7, we can't actually do that. So white to move and win, the best move in this position is to absolute brilliant move. So you can see the knight here is forking the queen on b6 and is forking the knight on e7. So black has two options. Excuse me. So if black decides to take, which is a mistake, we are going to take the rook, and whichever way black decides to recapture, if they capture with the knight, there's queen h7, just like we said. So the rook on e7 is doing a very important job protecting that file or that rank. So whichever way black decides to recapture the rook, checkmate is going to be played next. So maybe they would have, do something like this to just keep it a little bit longer. But after take, I don't actually see a way for white in this position. Knight g5 is coming and queen h3 is going to be coming next, and there's just no way for white to stop getting checkmated. So that is why e takes d5 is a mistake in that position. So the most stubborn move for black is just to play queen d8, and after that, in the spirit of the game, we know we are going to take this regardless. And once again, black can't afford to capture with the bishop because there's still threat of bishop h7 checkmate. And if they take with the knight, so that's why both knight and the bishop cannot take the knight on e7 because it's still going to be checkmate. So after knight takes e7, queen takes e7 has to be played. The queen now defending this rank. So one more, because you get 2 points for this exercise. So what is the best move in this position? d5, absolutely. You want to take advantage of the fact that this pawn is pinned because black can recapture. Is going to be a free queen for us. And if the knight moves, I think it's absolutely fair that the knight moves, but regardless of what happens, we are going to take on e6. After taking on e6, bishop takes on e6, and after knight d5, white has a very decisive advantage. This bishop is pinned. We're going to take rook takes, and maybe like queen c4 at the end is still going to be winning. So that is why it's a very decisive advantage for white in this position. The bishop can move, even though the knight is protecting the bishop. If we take, let's say, black is just cramped here. If you take, so let me say they play b5, we're going to take. If they take, we're going to take. And once again, black can't decide to take the rook because we still have queen h7 checkmate. So if you're able to solve it to the end, you get 2 points. And if you play the rook queen d8 for black as well, you still get 2 points regardless. So that is the queen and bishop mate. The idea is, just like I said, you can see oftentimes the queen is always ahead while the bishop is behind, and threatening checkmate as always. So in the total of this mating pattern, you get 3 points if you solved it all correctly. So yeah, welcome back. The second mate I'll be covering in this video is mate along open lines. Just like I'll be showing you one example and 2 exercises, and with the exercises they all come with points. So mate along open lines, it's pretty simple from the definition. It's a checkmate strategy whereby you force your opponent king into an open file where it can be checkmated either by the rook or a queen. So this first example is a game is a simultaneous game in the 1900 against it was Immanuel Lasker with some random person. It says Meyer in the book. So you can pause the video now and figure out the best move for white. It's actually mate in 6 if you see it correctly. It's actually mate in 6 if white proves to be more, and if black proves to be more stubborn, it's mate in 6. But you can decide to get mate in 3 or something like that if black plays the wrong move. So pause the video now and figure out the best move for white. So the best move in this position, as you all know, go through your checks first, is rook d8 check. And there's a more if you probably want to play queen h7, but that leads to a quick checkmate. After rook here check, the only move is king h6, and after king h6, there's just rook h8 checkmate. So to keep fighting, the same idea goes after king f7, which doesn't this is not up to mate in 6. First to the same ideas. After rook here check, there's king f6, and from there on you can see the pattern now that black is going to get checkmated regardless of whatever happens. So after rook d8, for the mate in 6, the best move for black is just to step on g8. There's no option here, and like I've shown in the previous variation, rook 1d7 check is coming. And here as well, if you go here like I showed in the previous move, checkmate. So after rook here, the king has to step forward and check. So you want to figure out the best move in this position. You don't want to give something like this check because after king here, everything just start getting messed up. So in this position, you play rook f8 check, forcing the king down this path. The king can't go here, the king can't go here. Obviously he can go here, so the only move is step into e5. And if you're able to visualize up to this point, you would know that the king stepping on e5 is a doom. So after king e5, if you play rook e8 check now, you would think that okay, the king can go back, obviously. So let's say rook e8, if the king decides to go back, I think you get the same thing as well. Check, checkmate, of course. So there's no point for the king going back. So the best move here as well is for black to play king f4. And obviously for my level at the intermediate level, even at the beginner level, you would already see why this is going to be a checkmate at the end of the day. So after rook d4, there's only one square available for the king, which is king g3. And after king g3, I'm sure you can see the mates in this position now. There's just rook e3 checkmate. This is an open line. This rook on d4 is covering the square. This rook on e3 is covering the square. This pawn on g3 is doing a beautiful job restricting the king's movement. And with the king on g1, we are able to deliver checkmates. And the black rook are just completely helpless. There's nothing they can do, and that is how black got checkmate. White Emmanuel Lascar checkmated Meya in this position. So like you all know, I'll be showing you the first exercise, and for you to go through. I think this is more of like a 2 point. I think it's 1 point, but I'll be giving 2 points for this exercise on my own. So white to play in this position and win. Go ahead and pause the video and figure out the best move for white to win. If you notice, we are down 2 pawns. In this position, we have 5 pawns, and I think black has 7 pawns. So it's better to get checkmate on the board. So the best move in this position is rook takes h6. I'm just kidding. Rook h6 is a blunder because after gf6, there's nothing we could do. If you decide to go for check, the rook just takes, and after check, I mean something like this, take back, and black is just up a rook. It's not necessary that black gives back the queen, but just to show you why rook takes h6 is a mistake. So if you play rook takes h6, I'm sorry, you don't get any point. So the best move is queen takes h6 checkmate. And with the theme of the mate, which is mate along open line, I'm sure you've seen the reason why this is checkmate. I'm sorry for my bad arrow, because if black decides to take back, there's just, rook takes h6 mate. And look at this beautiful rook. This rook on g6 is controlling the escape king for the escape square for black's king, and this one is giving a checkmate. With two rooks and a queen, black is helpless in this position. So this is a very satisfying mate. So after queen f6, the king can decide to step to g8, but this doesn't help the matter as well, because after queen takes g7 will be checkmate. So there's no reason why black should play this as well. So you get 2 points for correctly evaluating that queen takes h6 is much better compared to rook takes h6. So you get 2 points. So for the second exercise, mates along open line as well. We are down a pawn in this position. So I want you to pause the video and figure out the best move. And I think this one is probably easy compared to the fact that the first one I showed, which was so not to talk too much, pause the video and figure out the best move. The best move in this position is, like in the previous exercise, is queen takes h6 with the aim that after bishop takes on h6, there's just rook h6 checkmate. Look at this beautiful rook on look at this beautiful rook on g3, covering the escape square for black's king. There's no way for black to step here or step here because of this rook on g3, and the rook on h6 is delivering the checkmate while being completely helpless. The queen can't even participate. So after queen takes h6, if black decides to do the same thing again, stepping on g8, there's just queen takes g7 checkmate. And after this is the reason why rook h6, don't get me wrong, rook h6 is still like winning for white, but it's not as clean as this. Don't forget, black can decide to accept the rook sacrifice because this will be checkmate. So after bishop rook takes h6, it gives black the perfect opportunity to slightly escape with the king to g8, because in this position you don't want to give a mate like this, because the queen here just covers that square. And after king g8, I was evaluating with the computer, and bishop e4, moves like this, f5, f5, then you have rook h5 with the aim that you can't take here because you just plunder your queen. So after f5, rook h5, then you play rook f7. Black is in time to just add double, double down on protecting the square. And after this is just a way for you to just complicate the game in this position. So rook g1, you give back the bishop, and that's just the only way for black to survive in this position, is to sacrifice the queen. And after this, so it will be a queen for a rook and bishop, and this is still completely winning for white. I can turn on the evaluation, but it's still +4 for white, but instead of +4, why not get checkmate on the board? So if you get this right, you get 2 points as well. So for the total of this episode, you get 7 points in total. 3 points for the queen and bishop checkmate, and 4 points for the mates along open lines. So drop a comment below of your favorite checkmate pattern, and if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It does help the algorithm. And a big shout out to the people that voted when I dropped on which content were they expecting on the channel. And happy Chess International Day. I don't know if I'll be releasing this video on Chess International Day, but happy Chess International Day. So regardless of when you're watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.